Chafim and Aleph. I'm going to start 6 lines from the bottom towards the end of the line. Karfeif Beis Shalish. We've been learning about a karfeif. Karfeif is a large area that there's usually no living arrangements in that area. And it could be surrounded by a wall, but that enclosure doesn't help you for Shabbos unless the area is smaller than a Beisa. Here we have an area that's, unless the area is smaller than a Beisa Sayin, 100 by 50. Here we have Beis Shalish. It's 50 by 150, right? There's it could hold 3 sa. You could plant 3 sa in this. However, Bekira by Beisa, but you put a roof over 1 Beisa, so probably a 50 amma by 50 amma is roofed in. So Rava Amar Avir Kiruyev Miyasrei. Rava says that the area, the airspace that's underneath this roofed-in area is considered in excess to the Beis Asayim, and therefore it's aser. You have it's too large. And Reb Zeira Amar Eina Bikra Miyasrei, no, it does not make it, it's not considered an excess. Now, the explanation for this we'll see in a moment. Leima Rava v'Rab Zeira plukta de Rabbi Shmuel kamifli. Let's say that the machlekes Rava and Rab Zeira, I would like it to say Rabba and Rab Zeira because they were more common. And on the side it's corrected to Rabba and Rab Zeira. Let's say that Rabba and Rab Zeira is the same machlekes as Rav and Shmuel. The Itmar, that we have a statement, Achsaj bebika. Achsaj is a veranda, like the picture that Steinzel says. Nice picture. Color. So it has these. It's an open area. It doesn't have walls, but it has a roof. So it's like a sukkah without walls, just a roof. So what's the din? Rabba Marmuta Bibika means in an open area, like a field or a valley, just an open area. Rabba Marmuta Taltal Bikul Rav holds that you can carry under the veranda, under the roof. You know where you have this in parks. Sometimes they have picnic tables that are covered by those things, and sometimes the kids have, for the sun, it's covered. There's no walls; it's just covered with those things that you use them, put them over cars, also protected. So Rav says you can carry in the whole thing, and Shmuel Amar Ein Metaltlen Ela B'Daled Amos. Shmuel says no, you can't carry there. You can carry only in Daled Amos, which means basically you can't carry there. Rav Amar, what's the reason for Rav? He says that the edge of the roof, when you look at the roof, there's an edge to the roof. You know, the roof goes like this, but when you look at it, there's an edge. So that thickness of that edge continues down and makes a fictitious wall, an imaginary wall that comes down and seals off the whole area. So, you have a mechitza. Now, we've learned all types of halacha meshmisinas. We know about lavud, that every 3 tfachim, if it's considered like it's closed. I think we learned kurasik, that a small wall could continue up. We learned about walls going down, continuing down. Here, it's even more than that. It's not even a kurachis. It's not even a wall going down. It's pi tikra, the thickness of the roof, seals off the edges. Shmuel says you can only carry in the 4 amas, which means you can't carry there. Because we don't say that the edge of the roof goes down. So there's a machlekes if you say a roofed-in area without any walls, if it's considered sealed off. Now, why would it be sealed off? Because the roof would continue down. So if you go back to an area, a karfeif, that's 3 saw, but 1 saw is covered with a roof. So do I say that that's considered like it's sealed off and the area is really only 2 saw? Now, if it's directly 2 saw, if it's exactly under 2 saw, that's what we mean. It's directly under 2 saw, not more than 2 saw. So then you're allowed to carry there. How would it be not more than 2 saw? Well, if it's considered like sealed off. So the opinion Rava that says that kiruya is in excess to the base Sayim rather. This extra besa is in excess to the base Sayim. He holds that it's asr to use because he holds like Shmuel that holds that the roof does not go down. And Reb Zera, I should have said Rabbah before, and Reb Zera that holds that you're allowed to use it, that area, is because he holds like Rav that the roof goes down. Let's see if I can pull up a picture just so we see what we're doing and then we'll go on. Too fast. Oh, okay, there we go. Too fast. We did already. This is what we're dealing with. We have a base Sayim, but one area is covered, one says covered with a roof, and that's what we're discussing. And if you notice here, he has that little arrow, he wrote Pitikra. Does the roof extend downward? So he shows us this veranda that has a roof, no walls, and it's a Machlekas Rav and Shmuel. Now he points out that this is an opinion according to Rashi. Taisvis discusses it, that it actually has at least, it has a wall, possibly 2 walls, possibly 3 walls. And the question is if you say Pitikra on the 4th wall. Taisvis doesn't hold like Rashi that all 4 walls are open. He holds that you need to have 2 walls on the side. At least, maybe 3 walls on the side. And the discussion is the 4th wall. This is an issue that I have in front of my house. I have, if you've seen it. So when I open the front door, it's like some tiles there. I can go outside, and sometimes there's a chair there. And there's a roof on top. There's slight walls on the side. If I didn't have the walls on the side, then I would need Pitikra Yerd V'Seisim, according to Rashi. But, now I have the walls on the side, and according to Taisvis, I can have just the fourth wall is the Pitikra Yerd V'Seisim. It makes a difference, this little distinction here. Okay, so now, Ida Vida Kiach Sadra, the Gemara says, okay, what we just tried to do is we said that the machlekes between Rabbah and Reb Zera is the same machlekes in Rav and Shmuel if you say Pitikra Yerd V'Seisim. We turn to the top of Hay. It says, Ida Vida Kiach Sadra, if the roof would have been flat, so Hachinami, then you're right. Rashi explains over here that you're right means that everyone would agree to Rav that Pitikra Yerd V'Seisim. Everyone would agree to that. If the roof was flat. What are we dealing with? That it was made, Ki Arzila was made like a hut. In a hut, they made the roofs like that. That's Rashi's pshat. Taisus has a different pshat, like we mentioned before. And he learns that Arzila means it doesn't really say Arzila, it says Ki Arsila, it's made like a hammock, which means that it's open on all 4 sides. If it would have been like an achsadra that's open only on one end, then granted. But here it's open on all sides, like a hammock, which is just hanging and there's nothing under it. It's a great description of the hammock. They tied ropes from tree to tree and with a bed in the middle. So, okay. In other words, this case is not necessarily going to be a machlekes Rav and Shmuel, because both of those opinions, both Rab and Rab Zera would agree to Rav in Rav's case, where it was a real achsadra. Over here it's different. What's different about it? There's two possibilities. Either what's different about it is over here the roof was slanted, or the possibility is here it was open on all four sides, depending on Rashi or Tosfos. Amar Rab Zera. Rab Zera makes a statement that says he would agree. I would agree that it would be usher if it would be a karfif that's open to a chatzah. So what's happening, what his case was a karfif that had 50 amas covered by a roof, where he says that was mutter because pitikri yerd b'saisim. But if I had a karfif that was exactly a base sign, it means it was allowed to carry in there. However, it was open to a courtyard. Now, there's a few possibilities here. What's wrong with this? If it's open to a courtyard, it could be that you've extended the size of the karfif because you opened it to a courtyard. There's other possibilities. Other possibilities is, are you allowed to carry from a courtyard to a karfif? Is it considered one rishus? Or is it considered that you're taking from one rishus to another? We had a machlekes Reb Shimon and the Rabbanan. If I say roofs, karfifs, and courtyards are considered one rishus, Reb Shimon held that it was. You didn't need an Eruv to join them. They were always considered one rishus. And the Rabbanan held no. The Rabbanan held that they were considered separate. So it's unclear what the issue is here, but whatever it is, Reb Zera says, Medina, I would agree, even though I'm lenient when the roof is covered, when the one besa is covered, but I would still ask her if the karfif shenifretz b'milua, if it was entirely open l'chatzer to a koyad shaser. My taima, what's the reason for that? Because the area of the chatzer is in excess to the size of the karfif, which makes it aser. Maskef Rav Yosef. Rav Yosef has a question. Rav Zera, how does it make it aser? How does it make it aser? Rav Yosef says you're allowed to carry in the chatzah. You're allowed to carry from a chatzah to a karfif, and from a karfif to a chatzah, because Reb Shimon holds that it's all one rishus. So how did it just become aser? It's not like you added a prohibited area to it. You added permitted area to it. And Rashi says, don't be concerned that you just increase the size of the karfif, because the chatzar, you're allowed to carry in the chatzar no matter what size it is, because the chatzar is hukaf l'dira. A chatzar you're always allowed to carry in, even if it's very, very large. So you didn't increase the size of the karfif by adding a chatzar to it. The chatzar is not prohibited area. Chatzar is permissible. So, Amalei Abaya. Abaya is a student of Reb Yosef, and Reb Yosef just asked the question to Reb Zera. Reb Zera says, I would be strict if a karfif opens up to a courtyard. And Reb Yosef asked, why? Why are you going to be strict? The courtyard is permissible. And they're permissible one to another. So Abaya says, who are you going like? He's asking Reb Yosef. Amalei Abaya, come on, who are you going like? Reb Shimon? You're going like Reb Shimon. Reb Shimon nami avir makam mechitzas. Even according to Reb Shimon, but you still have the little space of the wall In other words, we're talking about a karfif that's connected to a chatzar, but the wall between them broke. And when a wall breaks, you have the area of the wall. So he's saying you have the makim hamachitzas. If it would have been exactly two sa, you've just increased it right over the limit. Now it's a little bit lengthy how he proves this. Let's just take a look at a picture. Okay, that was Rashi's pshat in the of the Ki Urzela. This is Taisus pshat in the hammock. Okay, here we have the case of what Reb Zera agrees to, a karfif that's open b'milua l'chotzer. Notice that little aleph, it has this like dotted line. That's the makim hamachitzas. That's what we're talking about now. Abaya is claiming you have the makim hamachitzas, that you've just extended the line. That's why Reb Zera was maida. You've extended the area.
What's the difference between a karfif and a chotzer?
A chatzar is usually attached to a house, and it's hukaf ladira. The enclosure was made for living. The karfif was probably made to enclose an area of wood storage. You know, it's usually outside the city. Someone or something. He was cutting down trees. He's storing his wood over there. It's not a living area. So if it's not a living area, then it has a limit on how big it could be enclosed for Shabbos. Now here I have a karfif that's attached to the chatzar. Why is it not a chatzar? Maybe it's got something going on in there. I don't know. Wood storage. We said planting grain also makes it that it's not a living area. Maybe it's just an empty area. So what we're about to learn from Rav Chisda is that you have two possible cases. I have a karfif that's open fully to the chatzar. The chatzar is not open fully to the karfif. Why? Because I have over here gifufei. From the chatzar, I really have walls. But it could be the opposite as well. Here, the chatzar is open fully to the karfif. And the karfif has gifufei. Because when I walk this way, I have walls. The chatzar, you don't see those walls when you walk out. Okay. We called it before nicker mibachutz, shafad mibifnim, those sort of things. Because from one side you can't see there's really a wall there, and from the other side you can. Okay, we're holding now with ikavir makim machitas. The Amar Rav Chisda, because Rav Chisda said, karfif shenifritz b'milui l'chatzar. If a karfif is entirely open to a chatzar. That means that the karfif is more narrow than the chatzar. So chatzar muteres, the karfif aser. The chatzar is permissible because the chatzar has walls. The karfif is aser. The karfif doesn't have a third wall at all. Now chatzar my taima. What's the reason why the chatzar is permissible? This like gefufe, because it has the edges of the walls. The Gemara says, 1 second, you didn't explain that. Could be it's exactly the opposite. Could be that the karfif is wider than the chatzar, and the karfif has walls, the chatzar doesn't have walls. It should be exactly the opposite. Rav Chisda says, Abai is explaining Rav Chisda, it's not the gifufe that's our issue. It's increasing the size of the karfif that's our issue. Why is the karfif aser? Always because you've just increased the size of it. Why is the chatzar mutter? Always because increasing the size of a chatzar doesn't make it aser, no matter what the size is. What he's saying is it's not the gifufei, it's the avir. So what Abai is doing is he's protecting Rav Zera's statement that I would agree if a karfif opens up to a chatzar, that it would be aser, and Rabbi Yosef had a claim on that what's the problem? The chatzar doesn't make it aser. The problem is that you've increased the size of the karfif, just the amount of the wall that you lost. And that's what Abai is claiming. Okay. The next Gemara, I'll show you a picture first, and then we'll go through it. These are Tosfos descriptions. Here's our Gemara. This area is an orchard. It's called in the Gemara a Bustanai. Bustanai, the story of Bustanai was because of the orchard that he had a dream that they were cutting down the trees, and it was really the family of David HaMelech. It's a story that the Seder Adara says. Anyway, it's a Kahas book, interesting book. Bustanai it was called. Anyway, here we have a orchard, and there's an apadna. Apadna is a palace. Now, the wall of the apadna is also the wall of the Bustanai. It's also the wall of the orchard. What happens in this Gemara is the wall collapses, and there's an attempt to use the inner wall, the back wall, as the fourth wall of this orchard. Okay, that's what we're going to be discussing. It goes like this. Ahu Bustana. It was an orchard. That was next to the wall of the apadna of the palace. Palace just means like a hall, a large room. Nafalashisa Braisa, the apadna. The outer wall, which means the wall closest to the bustana, to the orchard, collapsed. Savarav Bibi Lumeimar.
The builder for a whole wall to fall.
I'm sorry?
Who was the builder? Who
Oh, yeah.
Of the palace? Right.
Right. That's right. They didn't follow the zoning laws. They tried to make extra money, do it cheaper. So it wasn't a hurricane area either. Nafal Ashisa Braisa Dapana, the outer wall fell down, or maybe it was a hurricane area. So Savar Rav Bibi Lemeimer Lismech Aguda Gavaisa. Rav Bibi, he wanted to rely on the inner wall. Because if you go into there is a wall there. You have to go into the hall, into the palace, and in that big hall, there's a wall at the end. So rely on that wall. Because you come from cut off people, that's why you're saying cut off statements. Now, Rav Bibi is Rav Bibi bar Abaya. Abaya is a descendant of Eli. And they had a curse on them that they were supposed to die young. And Abaya happened to live till 60. But the Gemara tells us that it was because he was full of Torah, and he also had the merits of Ma'asim Tovim. That's why he lived an extra 40 years. Maybe this was dying to 42 years, if it was 18. So, is that what it says? Yeah. So he's claiming that what you're saying here is not correct. You can't use those walls. Those walls are made for the palace. They're not made for the orchard, for the bustana. As we've mentioned before, that the walls need to be set up for what the purpose is. You can't always just rely on walls. We learned before about if it wasn't hukaf ladira, and then a dira comes there, which we're about to learn now, can you use the walls there? You say, no, those walls were made before the dira was there, before the dwelling was there. So it's, okay, that's what it says. The following Gemara has two pshatim. We'll follow Rashi, the two pshatim in Rashi. We'll follow Rashi's first pshat. Then we'll go through the Gemara with Rashi's second pshat. Okay. Ahi Avranka. There was a large tree. Avalei l'reish galusa bebustane. that the Rish Galusa had in his orchard. The orchard was very large, and you couldn't carry in the orchard. The avranka itself was not a problem. There were chairs that surrounded it. There were benches that were surrounding this tree. There shouldn't be a problem in the tree. It's carrying under the tree. The problem was carrying in the whole. Maybe not. I don't know about the tree. The problem was carrying in the whole orchard was a problem because it wasn't hukah fladira. It was the wall of the orchard wasn't put up for a dwelling area. Now, if it would have been attached to his house, then that would have been fine. But it happens to be. Maybe there was no door. Maybe the doorway from the house to the orchard was made after the walls were put up, and then that would invalidate the walls like we learned before. But the doorway would have needed to be there before for it to be hukah fladira. Amalei l'Rav Huna bar Chinana. Now we're dealing with the Reish Galusa here. Reish Galusa is the exilarch. He's in charge of the community in Babylonia. He's like the Jewish governor, or the president of the community. So he tells to Rav Huna bar Chinana, "Liabed martakanta de lamachanechal namahasam. Do something. I want to eat the meal out there tomorrow, like a picnic. I want to eat under that tree. So allow me to get the food over there." Azal, Rav Huna bar Chinana went. Abed kana pachas mishlaisha. He made a closed-off area, which would be considered like a shemera, which we learned before is like a little guardhouse or something. By how did he do it? In the easiest way possible, by putting sticks in the ground, reeds in the ground, every 3 tvachim. And he closed off an area that should be for like a bed or someone to sit in. So that's it. He made a base dira. He made a dwelling place in this area, and he wanted it to work. Now it's surrounded for a dwelling area. You should be allowed to carry in this area. Azal Rava went shalfinu. He tore it down, took away the sticks. Rava took away the sticks. Why did he take away the sticks? He holds that it doesn't work. We're following Rashi's first shot. Rashi on the top says, he doesn't hold that this works. Now, Rava has 2 students. Also, Rav Papa, Rav Huna Breder, Rav Yeshua, Naktinu Basrei. His 2 students, Rav Papa and Rav Huna Breder, Rav Yeshua, they, in support of their teacher, they went and they took the sticks and they collected them. Rava just tore them down. He knocked them over. They went and they took them in a way so that Rav Huna doesn't come along, Rav Huna bar Chinana doesn't come along and put them back up. Don't be confused with Rav Huna Breder Rav Yeshua and Rav Huna bar Chinana. Rav Huna bar Chinana is the one that allows this, and Rav Huna Breder Rav Yeshua and Rav Papa, the 2 students of Rava, they're supporting the teaching. The Machar, the following day, Esvei Ravina l'Rava. Ravina has a question to Rava. Now this question, Rashi tells us in his first prat that this is a support to Rava. He's asking him a question, but this question is saying, you're right what you did, that you didn't allow it. Why? Ir chadasha maididin la miyeshivasa v'yesheni mechamasi. He quotes this brisa. This is a brisa. A new city. You see, carrying outside the city. You have 2,000 amas, 70 amas, 2,000 amas, whatever. Now, where's the end of the city? So you would assume from the wall. It's not necessarily so. It goes like this. If it's a new city means that they built the city. Let me read further in the Gemara, you'll see. It says that a new city you measure from the dwelling area, which is from the last house. But an old city, an old city you measure from the wall. What's the difference in new and an old city? New city is, they built the city, it's like new developments. They build the whole thing and no one lives there yet. And they already have a wall up. That wall doesn't count. They built the whole city before people moved in. That's not a real wall for no one lived there. So if they built the city in that way and then people moved in, then you have to measure from where the people are living. Yeshena, an old city was like this. Someone built a house, another person built a house next to him, built a house next. Then they got together and they said, let's build a wall. So that's the old city. Over there, the wall was built to protect the people inside. That wall is the end of the city. Yeshena Chadasha is Shehukva L'B'Seif Yashva, was surrounded and then they settled it. But Yeshena is Yashva L'B'Seif Hukva. First they settled and then they surrounded it with the wall. So what's Ravina saying? Nami Hukva L'B'Seif Yashva Dami. This area, what does he call it? It's a bustana that has a branca in it. It has the tree that he wants to sit under. But Rav Huna Bar Chinana built in it a shemera, or a base dira in it after the walls were already there. He's saying that doesn't work. That doesn't work. If you build the walls, if you build the walls first and then you put in a dwelling area, then those walls don't help. That's what he's saying. So you were right, Rava, for tearing it down, because that whole thing, that was a bad head there. Amalei Rav Papa Rava, Rav Papa says to Rava, also in support. Amar Ravasi, and did not Ravasi say, or Ravasi said, Mechitzes adrachlen, if an architect or a builder puts up a wall. The reason why he puts it up, this would be like those umbrellas that they put in the ground. Sometimes people are doing work outside. They put these umbrellas up just to keep the shade. So here they put up walls. They put up a wall. Leishmei mechitza, it's not considered a mechitza. Why? Because it's so temporary. They just put it up to get their work done. Alma, kimal dil tzniusa avida le'avim mechitza. He says, let's tzniusa. It's tzniusa. The expression is that it's just for privacy for one day. What it means is it's just shade for a day. It's not a good wall. So what did they do over here? They put up these temporary sticks in the ground. That's not a good wall, which means it's not a good marked off area ladira. So therefore, you still can't carry in the whole bustana, in the whole orchard, just because of this temporary structure that Rav Huna Bar Chinana put up. Amar Rav Huna, or Amalei, Bach switches it. Rav Huna Bar Rabbi Shul Rabbi, he also has a support. Amar Rav Huna, mechitza suya lenachas leishmei mechitza. A mechitza that's put up just to protect. Now, lenachas means to relax. But what it means here is that there's a worker that's putting up this mechitza just to protect his items that he has there. The Rabba Baravua, what's this proof? Rabba Baravua ma'arav lo l'kul mechuza arasaisa. Rabba Baravua, he arranged for the city of Mechuza to have an Eruv. But he didn't do it for the whole city. He did it only for separate alleyways. He could have done it for the whole city, but he didn't want to. And the reason is, Mishum Peira de Beitura, because in the center they had these Peira de Beitura, these are ditches in the ground, where people would throw in their date pits, and the animals would eat from that. Now, I think what it means is that he could have relied on this. Could have relied on these areas that had these date pits. But in these Peira, this area of Peira, the Beitura, is the food for the animals. This is not considered a permanent permanent structure. So therefore, he didn't want to rely on it. What's Rav Huna Breder Rav Yeshua is telling Rava is that it's good that he didn't rely on that structure that Rav Huna Bar China put up, because it doesn't work. Even Rabba Bar Ravua didn't rely on a similar type thing when he made the Erev for Mechuzah. Well, because of this stringency that Rebbe had, that nothing worked, and all his students are telling him also that it doesn't work, so the Reish Galusa was not able to eat there. So Kari Ale Reish Galusa, the Reish Galusa calls about them, he says about them, Chacham Heimalara, they're wise only to be evil. That means they're wise just to be strict on me. But they don't know how to do good, they can't find the heter. Okay. That's the Gemara according to Rashi's first pshat. If you have an actual Rashi, so if you have a Gemara with Rashi, so if you go down to not the widest lines, but the middle wide lines, is about 8 of them. The Rashi Lahara, Rashi says, in the Tshuvas Againim, I found another pshat. Rashi was right after the Gainim. His teachers were students of Rabbeinu Gershon, who was like the last of the Gainim. Rav Hai Gain may have been the last of the Gainim. But the Gainim, I think, ended year 996. And Rashi, I think, was 1035 or something, 1040. So his teachers were the students of the Gainim. His pshat is like this, that it goes through a new pshat. And what switches here in the new pshat is that what Rav Huna Bar China did was that he made a walkway from the house up with the sticks. Not that he made a shemira there. He made a walkway with the sticks that take you from the house to the avankra, avaranka. And Rava said that walkway is not necessary. Why? Because you're allowed to carry there anyway. You don't need all of that. And Rava goes and takes it down because the whole thing isn't necessary. And the students are now asking on him, it is necessary. You can't carry in there just because you have that tree. And then it comes out that they didn't think about this yesterday. Rava didn't think about this yesterday, and the students didn't think about this yesterday when they took the sticks away and they hid them. They only think about it on Shabbos morning. And that's the Reish Galusa says, Chacham Himalara, Lahitiv Layadu. They're wise only for bad. In the morning, they figured it out. Yesterday, they didn't think about this issue, and they took it down. Okay. Rashi finishes off. He likes this pshat better. Okay. You can look through it. Rashi writes it very clear. He rewrites the Gemara, but there's okay. Amar Rabbi Elai Shemati Rabbi Eliezer Afilu Beiskor. Rabbi Elai said that he heard from Rabbi Eliezer that a karfif could be surrounded. It could be, even if it's so large that it's a Beiskor, you can still use it. If you look at Beiskor, let me just show you the pictures of the last Gemara, so some clarity there, and then we'll continue with this. Okay, this is the avankri. That's the tree that the Reish Galusa wants to eat under. This is Rashi's first pshat. Rav Huna Bar China set up that area for it's a shemeira for a guard to sit in, and now it's considered a hukaf ladira. That's a taisvus. Okay, this is Rashi's second pshat. No, that's not Rashi's second pshat. Similar to Rashi's second pshat, where he put those things there to go towards the. There's other pshatim here in Taisvus. Okay. Oh, that's the Ir Chadasha. That's the new city. This is the Mechitza of the Adrachlin, where they set it up just for their things or for to protect themselves. This is a city of Mechuzah that has those pits in it. Pits filled with pits. Oh, here's Rashi's second shot, where you have the Rafuna Bachina set up a pathway. Okay, that's the end of our pictures for a few blocks. Masnisan, the Gemara says, Masnisan B'leika Chananya. According to Rabbi Loi, in the name of Rabbi Eliezer, it could be up to a base core. A base core is 30 sa. The Gemara says our Mishnah is not like not like Chananya. The Tanya Chananya Mafili Arba'im sa. He gave a larger measure. It could be 40 sa, because Stratia Shel Melech, just like the Stratia must be like an open area, like a front yard or something of the king. Amar Rabbi Yechon, they both learned from the same pasuk. Shneimar, it says, Vayhi Yeshayahu Layatza Al Chatza Tichayna Ksiv. Ksiv Ha'ir, Karin and Chatzer. Ikan L'Strati Shemelch K'ayar Speinas. Okay. Apparently, Yeshayahu is going out into a courtyard. It says, the city, when it came to pass before Yeshayahu was going out into the middle courtyard, that the word of the Lord came to him saying. Okay, so he's getting a prophecy there. Now it says that the city, it says over there that he went out, must have been the pasuk before, and it says in the middle of the courtyard. So from here, Mikan, that the Stratia, which is this open area, was like a small city. That's the it's a Korean ksiv. Ksiv Eir Korean Katsa. Is it a Korean ksiv? Does anyone have the actual pasuk? It's a Korean ksiv. You know, sometimes there's a word in the Torah that you read it differently, like we have in the Taichacha. Yeah, it's a Korean ksiv. It says Vayishay Layatza Ha'ir. That's the reading of it. That's the written text. But it's not that you don't read it Ha'ir, you read it Chatzer. Chatzer Tichayna. This is what's going on. The Gemara is explaining the Korean ksiv. That it says city, but you read it courtyard. So from this we learn that the courtyard of the king was the size of a small city. Now we're going to have the machlekes between Hanania and Rabbi Loi in the name of Rabbi Lazar. How big is a small city? What's the machlekes? Marsa v'yaris benis have a base core. Rabbi Loi in the name of Rabbi Lazar holds that it's 30 sa. Marsa v'memsa havyan. V'yishayim by Hassam. What is Yeshayahu doing over there in the courtyard of the king? Amar Rabba Bar Chana, Amar Rabbi Yechanan, and Rabbi Bar Chana says, name of Rabbi Yechanan, Malamed Shechala Chizkiah. Chizkiah got sick. Remember, Chizkiah got sick. We had this in Brachas. He got sick because he didn't want to have children, and Hashem said he's going to die. And Yeshaya comes to tell him, and he ends up marrying Yeshaya's daughter, right? So Yeshaya went and set up a yeshiva on his door. Here you see that a Talmid Chacham that's ill, that he set up a yeshiva by his door as a protection. The Malach HaMavos can't get in. yeshiva is blocking. The Gemara says V'lav milsi, but don't do this. Because Dilma Asilas Guri Be Satan. Could be that the Satan is going to get angry. Rashi has an interesting shot. He says maybe the Talmidei Chachamim, the yeshiva students are going to fight, and then the Malach HaMavos is going to mix in. Okay. It says V'chein shamati imenu anshi chatzar sheshachach echad v'le'irav beisai yaseh. Says I also heard from him. This is Rabbi Lai talking in the name of Rabbi Lazar. He says that if one of the residents of the courtyard forgot and did not join in the Eruv, so it's prohibited for him, the one who forgot the Eruv, to take objects from his house into the courtyard, but everyone else is allowed to. Talking about here, this is when there's a bunch of people in a courtyard and they make an Eruv, so everyone needs to join in for it to be one area. If one person forgot, so that person ruins the Eruv for the whole area. So what they tell him is, forgo your portion of the courtyard. Forgo your portion. And then everyone else can carry. Now there's going to be a conflict in this Gemara. Doesn't mean that they can carry in the courtyard, but not from his house. Or doesn't mean that when he forgoes his area in the courtyard, they can also go to his house. You see, this person that forgoes his area becomes like a guest for them. Now, what doesn't mean that they now have access to his house and they can carry from the courtyard to the house. Or does it just mean that they can carry from their own houses into the courtyard? But his house is still out of bounds because he only gave up his rights to the courtyard. But we have a Mishnah that says that his house is aser. Our Mishnah says that his house becomes mutter. And we have another Mishnah that says his house is aser. Amar Rav Huna b'Rei Rav Yeshua, Amar Rav Shesel Kasha. Rav Huna, the son of Rav Yeshua, says in the name of Rav Sheshes that there's no problem. Or Rabbi Lezer or Rabbanan. It's machlokes. Machlokes Rabbi Lezer and Rabbanan. If you want, you could say it like this. When you examine it closely, that Rebbe Lezer holds that someone that's mevatel his rishus of his courtyard, he forgoes his portion of the courtyard. He's automatically forgoing his portion of his house as well. The Rabbanan, but according to the Rabbanan that said that his house is out of bounds, it's just the courtyard that's permissible. Doesn't work. He didn't forgo his house. The Gemara says pshita. That seems to be obvious. Why does Rav Sheshes have to say like a shatim tzaleimar? If you examine this closely, you're going to see that's exactly what they said. It doesn't take a lot of an examination. Amar Rachva. Another Rav Yehuna Bar Chinana, we have him again today. Rav Yehuna Bar Chinana, he's the one that set up the reads. Talking about 5 people that were in one chutzah. One of them didn't make the Eruv. What does the person that wants to forgo his area have to do? He has to tell everyone else that I'm giving you my area and I'm here just as a guest. And therefore, there is no one here that didn't make an Eruv. Everyone here made an Eruv. I'm also here. Well, I don't own the rights to this courtyard anymore. I've given it up. So can he tell it to one person? Or does he have to tell it to all 5? So according to Rebbe Lezer, he only has to tell it to one person. I'm giving it to you, and now I'm all set because I'm not here stopping anything. According to the Rabbanan, you have to tell it to everyone. Who would that go like? That says that you don't have to tell everyone. Come on, Rav Kana Masni Hachi, this is the way Rav Kana had it. Rav Yomi Masni Hachi. However, Rav Yomi has it the following way, which is basically the same thing. It's just what was the statement of Rav Sheshis made on. It was made on the case of the 5 people, as opposed to the case of he's just mevatel his chotzer, but not his house. We had the statement, he made it on the chotzer. That was the statement. Now we're doing it the opposite. Can I finish I'm take another few minutes. The Tanya, it goes like this. According to whom does it go? It's 5 people in a courtyard. One of them forgot to make to join in with the other 4. So he nullifies he forgoes his rights to the courtyard. He doesn't have to forgo to everyone, he just has to do it to one. Come on, who does that go like? Amar Rav Huna, Bar Yehuda, Amar Rav Sheshis, come on, Rabbi Lazar. That goes like Rabbi Lazar that says if he forgoes to one, it's good enough. According to Rabbi Lazar, Yamar Leimevatelna, if I say, I'm not mevatel my house. We learned before that min hastam, once he's mevatel his courtyard, min hastam, the assumption is that he was also mevatel his house, according to Rabbi Lazar. Let's say he says clearly, I am not mevatel my house, I'm only mevatel my courtyard. Or the other way, l'Rabbanan, where min hastam, he's not mevatel his house. However, he actually says, l'Rabbanan yamar mevatel namai. What's the difference? Time of the Rabbi Lazar. What was the reason Rabbi Lazar? What was the reason Rabbi Lazar? Because once he says, I forgo my rights to the courtyard, it's assumed that he also forgives. He gives up his rights to the house. And this person said clearly, I am not. Or maybe that's not the pshat. Maybe the pshat is not that it's just the assumption there. It's just that a house without a courtyard is not considered a house. And if I say I'm not mevatel lav kol kamina, it doesn't mean anything. But even though he said that, but it's meaningless because a house without a courtyard isn't even considered a house. So therefore, even though he says I'm not mevatel you can still use it. According to Rabbi Lazar. What about the Rabbanan? My time. Let's say he says clearly that I am mevatel my house. I'm forgoing the rights to my house. My time with the Rabbanan basically. What was their opinion? That if someone nullifies the rights to his courtyard, he doesn't nullify the rights to his house. But here he said clearly that he is mevatel the rights to his house. He should be allowed to use it. Or maybe time of the Rabbanim Mishum D'Lo Yavid Inish to Misalik Nafshi Legamri Mibayas. Maybe a person wouldn't do that. And he would just be a guest in the courtyard. But now when he says he is mevatel it, lav kol kamine, it doesn't mean anything because the person doesn't do that. Amalei, he responded, Bein l'Rabban, Bein l'Rabba Lazar, keeping the gully daiti gully. No, if he says it, he says it. So if according to Rabbi Lazar, it won't work. If he says I'm not mevatel my house, according to Rabbanan, it will work. If he says I am mevatel my house. When it concludes, we heard that you're allowed to use this type of herb on Pesach. Maya kravlin. What is a kravlin? Amrish lakish atzvasa charuzaisa. Mingevix. Some type of growth. He translates it as a type of fiber that wraps itself around the date palm. Okay, that's what Rashi says. Okay, so that's apparently bitter, and you can use it on Pesach. Okay, we'll start on Sunday then.